Hello, everyone. Welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. This is your extra show for the week. My name is Cammy Bell. I am your host as always, and I'm joined on the late night shift as we're recording not long after getting back from Ibrox, and what was certainly a very interesting game is my very good pal and fellow co-podder for our Heart and Hand network, Colin McMillan. Colin, thank you so much for joining me again, as I say, on the late shift.
It's a pleasure, Cammy. Hello, and hello, listeners. It may be the late shift. It may be very, very later into the morning that we're recording, but I don't think I'm sleeping anytime soon after tonight. So it's probably the best time to do this pod, I think, actually.
Yeah, it's it's funny because the manager had said after the Hibs result on Saturday he wasn't going to be getting any rest across the weekend because he was so angry. It's funny how the emotions can turn, Colin, because as you rightly say, I don't think I'll get too much sleep tonight because I'll be honest with you, I'm delighted and I'm so proud of this Rangers team for a performance that they put in a European quarter final against a very, very good team, very much up against the odds, and we're still very much alive in tie. It was a drama-filled night, I think it's fair to say.
It absolutely was, yeah. And I don't know about you, but I feel as if I kicked every ball of it for them and threw myself in front of every single attack and stuff the way the team did tonight. But yeah, it's a great night. It can't be forgotten, Cammy, that this was a European quarter-final against a Spanish side, a good Spanish side with wonderful players who are worth far, far more than our players are worth, etc., in terms of transfer values and things like that. Sometimes we get maybe too complacent with our first night antics and just how much we enjoy this competition, how well we do in it generally. But this is a big European competition. It's a quarter final. We're there. We had some stuff to overcome tonight, which we did. We've got a great result, and we're going to take it to the away leg now, and who knows what happens after that. This is a thing to celebrate in a season without many things to celebrate. We can't really forget just how big a night this actually was.
Yeah, let's unpack it. The biggest piece of news, I think, Colin, of the night when we saw the starting lineups was Liam Kelly coming in for Jack Butland in goal. The manager had referred to making changes in the Hibs post-match presser, and welcome changes, I think it's fair to say, by the majority of the fan base, and certainly the Rangers supporters I'd spoken to. Jack Butland has not been in a good run of form, and he hasn't been for a number of weeks now, and cost us quite a few goals from errors, which I definitely feel were avoidable. There were some forced changes with Mohamed Diomande and John Souttar, both missing due to suspension, which meant a welcome return to the team for Liam Balogun, an interesting return to the team for Robin Proper, and also a start for Bailey Rice as well. Bailey Rice becomes 18 years old, the youngest player to start for Rangers in a European game since Danny Wilson all the way back in 2009. Colin, keen to get your thoughts on the team overall when you saw the lineup. Personally, I give absolute credit to Barry Ferguson to make the call. Anyone who's a regular listener either to Extra or on our Patreon site will know that I have said I still think Butland is a better goalkeeper for Europe. But when you saw, the performance against Hibs, it wasn't good enough. And I've got to applaud the manager for sticking to his guns and making that change.
Yeah, I've got to applaud him too, actually. I wasn't necessarily doing that when the team came out tonight, but now you've got to. It all worked. I just wasn't sure about dropping Butland tonight. He's been worthy of being dropped for a good few games now, and my only thoughts were it's a big, big game to do it in. It could have been done a game or so ago. And then Liam Kelly isn't coming from the cold, so to speak, into this big, massive match. Not that it fazed them in hindsight. The other changes, I respect and I like the fact that Barry Ferguson did them because I think he spoke with a lot of emotion and a lot of anger after the Hibs game, and he threw the gauntlet to the players and said that there was going to be changes. And when you say something like that in the heat of the moment, you kind of put yourself in a position as a manager where you've really got to do it, or else you're putting yourself in for criticism for saying things that don't end up happening. But he stuck by his guns and he found the 6 changes, 2 of which were forced upon him. The 4 other ones that he made the choice of making, and we can't really knock them, Cammy. We've come away from a game with a result, which in a normal circumstance with 11 players versus 11 players for 90 minutes would still be a wonderful, wonderful result. But to do it the way we did it tonight, it's been incredible. So you've got to hand that to the manager and say he did get it right and he did it spot on. So fair play to him.
Yeah, he did get it right to start with. I think we're going to talk about a couple of subs that we would have liked to have seen a little bit earlier in the game, but we'll get on to that. It was quite a feisty opening, I think it's fair to say. Ibrox was electric for my money. I understood. I know that there was people who I think have kind of fallen out of love with this current Rangers team, and understandably so, given the domestic performances. And there was a few regulars from within my regular seat at Ibrox who were missing tonight. And I think, again, if people are making a decision that, I need to think about why I'm putting money into the club, then I understand it and I respect it. A difficult period with the fact that obviously a lot of the season ticket renewals have come through, but I think that there was not a lot of empty seats in Ibrox.
No, it was a sellout. I know a few people that tried to buy tickets and couldn't, so it was all sold out. Whether they made it to the game or not, but it was a sellout. There wasn't many spaces around me, and in fact, it looked like there was more people than there should be spaces for. It was that busy. It was just one of those nights. Everybody was standing, everybody was pushing to get forward. It was a great atmosphere, and this is an atmosphere off the back of 5 home defeats in a row. And you would never know it because the Rangers fans turned up tonight and they sang, they made noise. I think they intimidated the Athletic players a little bit, and we did what we do on these European nights. And you're right, people aren't in love with this Rangers team. People have had enough with a lot of these players, but it's Rangers. It's a European night. You're there for the club. You're there for the team. You're there for everything that goes with it. Personal feelings for players that maybe let us down other ways this season get put aside for the night, and you just make the most of it. And I think we definitely did that. We played our part tonight with the tifo, the displays before the game, and then just the noise all the way through it. It was great.
Yeah, and a fairly regular, I would say, routine opening 10 minutes. Rangers were coming out. There was a shot by Czerny, which I felt was unlucky. He just couldn't wrap his foot around it to be able to try and get it across the face of goal. But as you've alluded to, the real drama started on 11 minutes when, following some loose outplay from the Rangers back four, Robin Proper and Liam Balogun tried to make an attempt to deal with Williams as he's coming through in the box. Balogun misses him. However, Proper does catch Inaki Williams. He's brought down on the edge of the area. Proper is given a booking in the first instance by the referee. I think we all held our hands up and said, yeah, that's probably fair. However, the referee is then called over to the VAR monitor, and it's adjudged to have been denying a goal-scoring opportunity. Williams was going to be able to get the shot away. There was no one who was going to be coming across to be able to try and cover for Balogun and Proper having both committed to the challenges. The irony being, if Balogun had got him first, then at least Proper would have been there. Or indeed, if it had happened in the box and we conceded a penalty, Proper would have still been in the park with a booking. However, these are the rules, and we are going to come back to them shortly. Proper's dismissed, and we have got, at this point, 78 minutes still to play. There's going to be a little bit more than that, as we'll come on to. It's a red card. I can't really argue it, Colin. I think the question mark I have is that because we knew that John Souttar would be missing, I'm just interested in your thoughts of starting Robin Proper. He has played well in Europe. He hasn't played well domestically. I don't think he's really within the manager's thought process for any kind of consistent period of time. But he had to be involved tonight purely through lack of options. I don't know if it's rustiness. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. I know he has to commit to the tackle, but Balogun has missed his. Proper then goes in to deny Williams been able to try and break through into the box. So I understand why he's been into it. I'm wondering if maybe this is a lesson in hindsight for Barry Ferguson, that if you know that you're going to have to play a player in an upcoming game, try and get him some game time beforehand.
Yeah, I can see both sides of it. I mean, first and foremost, it is a red card. We can't make the complaint. It was a goal-scoring opportunity that was taken away from Williams, so it is a red card. However, during the game, I certainly didn't think that. I was furious about it, but that's what it's like in the stadium when you don't have the benefit of replays and things like that. But yeah, it was the right call. As for Proper himself, yeah, I can see a lot of sense in playing him last weekend and just getting him a bit more up to speed and getting some minutes into him and all the stuff that comes from that. I wonder if there was the other side of the decision making though, Cammy, where Barry Ferguson's thinking, I've not got a lot of options at centre half. I need Robin Proper. I've got suspensions. I've got other stuff going on. If he gets a knock this weekend or something happens to him, I'm in a bad place come Thursday night. And he's maybe just went with safety plus and relied on him being fit and not putting him in that kind of that jeopardy, I guess. He's rolled the dice in that regard, and it's potentially not worked for him in terms of he has made this tackle that maybe a Robin Proper with 60 minutes under his belt at the weekend wouldn't have made. Who knows? But I can see both sides of it, so I don't want to come down too harsh on him for not playing him at the weekend.
Yeah, it's just it's ifs and buts and pots and pans, as they say. But Rangers had a mountain to climb. It was going to be a tough challenge, even from kickoff. But being able to play the vast majority of the game with a man down just made everything even harder. As you would expect, Athletic Club came into the game to be able to try and press us and press us and press us. One of the things that I noticed, Colin, that they are very keen on being able to utilise the flanks. Now, we knew that as part of our build-up on our Patreon site. You know, the guys who do the preview and the in-depth analysis of it, including our very own James Forrest. It's definitely their preferred style. So it was interesting to me that they continued to try and work with that application rather than being able to try and take a few shots from the centre of the park from 18 to 20 to 25 yards out. They were keen to be able to do that, but we have to give credit to another man who was brought in from the cold, and that's Ridvan Yilmaz. Ridvan Yilmaz did not play well in his last game up in Dundee. I thought he was really poor. He definitely had a lot of work to do. I think he was ably supported by Yanis Hadji on that left-hand side. But I want to give a call out because I definitely think he's well deserving of it. That Yilmaz stuck to his task really, really well. He was intelligent. And what I mean by that is it wasn't a case of having to just get the ball away from our goal as quickly as we could and then start to endure another wave of Bilbao attack. He managed the game. He managed his area well, where even when he was getting hunted, he had a couple of Bilbao players at times where he just made the right decision to play off them for a shy, not just whip the ball up the park where he knew it was going to be coming back to him. Stood his ground well, especially against Nico Williams at times, where I think Williams was trying to cut inside him. He was trying to cut through him with a little bit of silky skill to try and pull off the nutmeg. But Yilmaz stuck to his task. And for a guy who, like we've discussed before, it looks likely won't be here next season. I personally don't have a problem with that. I've got to give him immense credit for how he applied himself through the period of the game before he was replaced by Jeffy.
Yeah, I think he played really, really well defensively. As soon as that happened with the red card, the players all had to play defensively, and a lot of their offense play sort of kind of just disappeared because it was going to become a backs against the wall sort of evening. So we didn't see as much of the kind of going forward Ridvan or the kind of stuff that he does well in that regard. But defensively, he was very, very solid. There was a couple of times where I was shouting at him to go to the guy, but he's smarter than me, Cammy. He's a footballer and I'm an idiot in the stand. He was standing off long enough and then just getting at the right time to block them, get in the way, pressure them. He was winning tackles and he was winning when he was winning possession, like you say. He wasn't just booting it away and they were getting possession back straight away. He wasn't putting out for corners. He was doing the smart thing with it more often than not as well, which was good to see, especially on a night when you're going to be full of pressure, especially when you're backing the team after an absolute stinker of a performance that he had the last time. So yeah, I thought he played really well, really good defensively, and it shows what he is capable of and what he can do. It's probably a case of too little, too late for him, and it's not going to happen at Rangers for Ridvan Yilmaz, sadly. But that won't do him any harm if he's looking for a new buyer come the summer if he can show them tonight's game.
Yeah, very true, very true. Rangers were able to weather the storm, Colin, through the rest of the first half. As you rightly say, the optic had very much shifted towards being able to try and do some more of a defensive game plan as we were on our heels a little bit with the the man advantage that Bilbao had. At this point, I want to call out a couple of fantastic saves made by Liam Kelly. One in particular where there's a really good turn and shot on the angle from Sanadi, who gets it down, gets a good shot. It's going in, and Kelly's able to tip it over the bar. There's then another save that he makes from a glancing header. It's going in. It's not as close to the left-hand post as I initially thought it was when I saw it in real time, but Kelly's at full stretch, and the really important thing here is he catches the ball. He gets a good grasp of it, and this was something which I think is now starting to come back to the Jack Butland conversation, where I think with a couple of these saves, you've got questions around Butland, and he's definitely not a fan of catching the ball. Kelly showed that as long as you can catch, kill it, the attack is over. You're not putting it back into play. You're not having to tip it around and concede another corner. For, again, a player who was coming in out of the cold and been able to get this opportunity, I thought Liam Kelly held the back line really well. And again, I've got to give him immense credit for making some saves that he made look routine, but I think that when you've seen them back, actually they're not as routine as you may think. He played really, really well across the course of this first half.
He absolutely did, and those two saves that you mentioned were really big ones in terms of both they're good saves in the course of the game and it stopped the opposition scoring, but I think it also kind of just put a little bit of belief into him from his point of view and from the fans' point of view, because when I got into the stadium tonight, that was the thing the vast majority of people were saying to me. What do you think about Butland's been dropped? What are you thinking about Kelly? And there was quite a lot of and and different opinions and things like that. People weren't sure. They were unhappy with how Jack Butland's been, for sure. But it's not as if Liam Kelly's been tearing down trees from us in the past and is the new Andy Gordon that was going to come in and rescue us, or so we didn't think. But yeah, the fact that he got those saves in the middle of that first half, I think it just lifted everybody and took away maybe the initial kind of fear or the wonder about how he was going to be. And he just went from strength to strength after that. I think there's nothing you can criticise him for tonight. Distribution was good, shot stopping was good, he got himself in the way of things, and then obviously the stuff we're going to talk about later.
Yeah, it will not be the last time we talk about Liam Kelly, that's for sure. As I say, Rangers got in at half-time. I think a well-earned rest was needed for the Rangers players. The manager obviously wanted to be able to get across the message of just making sure that we continued with that effort and that application, because we knew it was going to be a long second half. I'll be interested to know if we had maintained with 11 players on the park, whether or not he had planned substitutions for later on. But as we've already mentioned with the players, the game plan had to change exactly the same in terms of any tactical subs that the manager was looking to do in the second half. There was an enforced change just after the hour mark where unfortunately Bailey Rice had to go off. This is one of those ones, Colin, that if you're ever watching it on TV, they don't ever tend to show replays. So we've not had a chance to be able to try and look at it. But from people who did see it live on TV and had a better view than us, it would appear that, it's been a clash of heads. I think that Rice has taken quite a sore one to the face. And there was a lot of medical treatment being applied to him for a good solid, 7 or 8 minutes at least. He was stretchered off, but fortunately he was able to give a wee wave and a kind of round of applause. Everybody in Ibrox at this point was on their feet. I'm personally gutted for him because I know that Barry Ferguson, having obviously come through the system himself, is keen to be able to see youth get an opportunity. And he's mentioned Bailey Rice, and he's been openly... he's given an open assessment about me. He said that, there's things that he wants to see a bit more from him on. A great night for him to be selected to start in a European quarter-final, as we mentioned. I'm just really disappointed for him that it finished in this way. My hope is we've got a very speedy recovery for him. And the way how he played for the hour or so that he was on the park, I don't think he's done himself any harm in terms of future contention for playing for Rangers.
Yeah, absolutely. On that point, first of all, young guy, 18 years of age, massive stage for him to be playing on, and he didn't look out of place. And he was also smart enough and clever enough as a footballer to adapt his game as well when the game went the way it went and we had to suddenly change what our plans were and just really, really defend. And that would have impacted his play of the game and what he had to do. And he probably had to get more involved defensively than he perhaps would have done before. So yeah, kudos to him for that. it was a bit of a nothing incident at the time. It was one of these strange ones where they went down and he was needing treatment, but I don't think MD seemed, because it wasn't as if it was a horror challenge or it looked bad or anything, but then the longer he stayed down, people started to worry and he didn't seem to be moving. People at home said there was no replays and all that sort of stuff, lots of crowd shots. But yeah, thankfully, like you say, when he got taken off, he came round a little bit and he was waving and clapping his hands and stuff. So yeah, fair play to him. He won't be back for a while. There'll be the concussion protocol and stuff, I would imagine, for at least a week. So we probably won't see him in Spain. But after that, hopefully it's not too much longer. And like you say, he's done himself no harm whatsoever in terms of showing that he I don't want to say he belongs in the team quite yet, but he's a guy that you can put into this team and he's not going to let you down going by tonight.
No, absolutely not. So, as I say, after that injury delay, game restarted. And to be honest with you, I think that this was where we were starting to look to do a little bit of refresh. Connor Barron obviously came on for Bailey Rice. Yilmaz was replaced by Jefty, as we mentioned earlier on as well. And then we get to 80 minutes, Colin, where I can't really begin to describe, really what happened within this situation without, bursting into laughter. There's a long ball which is played over the top. Bilbao are able to finish it on the second attempt from Alex Bernger. It's a lovely volley to be able to finish. However, he is a mile offside. Various people around me at the stadium were kind of saying, no, I'm certain he's off. I'm certain he's off. There is a delay. And in the stadium, a rather bizarre set of circumstances happened where the referee is then called over to the monitor. We then subsequently found out that the goal was ruled as offside, but there was a handball by Dujon Sterling in the long ball that was played over initially. It hits his arm, handball is given, and therefore a penalty. Having had the chance to be able to watch it back, Colin, I am staggered that a penalty was given here. I understand the rule, right? So I'm not saying that I like the rule by any stretch whatsoever. One of the things that I always tend to see whenever there's penalty claims is no one claimed from a Bilbao perspective that it had hit his arm. When I see the movement of his body and where it hits his arm, there is absolutely zero intention there whatsoever. He is only concerned with the ball coming over the top and where his man is. That's all he's focused on. He has no idea where that ball is going to bounce, where it's going to land, and he cannot consciously, in my opinion, make an attempt to intentionally block it. However, in what seemed to be quite a relatively quick VAR review, the referee comes back onto the park, talks to Tavernier and Raskan, and then awards the penalty. And I'm staggered that this was given. It seems to be one of those ones, Colin, that it's given in Europe but not in the UK, and that for me is just it left me scratching my head. And when you think about how much left of regular time we've got, because I say this is about 10 minutes to go, plus we know that there's going to be at least 10 minutes plus of injury time now, including this VAR check. I think the penalty decision was just I'm still flabbergasted by it.
Yeah, it's one that I just can't believe was given. It's you see things like this happening and not being given week in, week out. If you watch Match of the Day on a Saturday or whatever else, you see these sort of contentious ones and they don't tend to get given. You're right. In Europe, it seems to be a different story. That's a bigger conversation. We all play the same game on the same sort of pitch with the same ball and the same number of players. Why is there some things that happen in Europe and not domestically? That shouldn't be a thing. But yeah, that's another conversation. But yeah, I think we can feel quite harshly done to, given that we have had a bit of turmoil 11 minutes into the game with a red card right away from the start. We've kind of rode the storm between then and now. We then think we've conceded, but we haven't because it's offside. So we get the little lift after the initial disappointment of that. Then we've got to contend with a penalty off the back of that as well. And unknown to us in the stadium, it's probably not even a penalty. So yeah, it's a real harsh sequence of events, and it was bad enough for us as fans going through all this. For the players, it must be even worse. I think something needs to be said as well about the whole VAR things at the minute. So I've always been a big fan of VAR. I think it's a good thing. I also don't think it's going anywhere. but they need to do something about the implementation of it. We've got to a stage now where domestically, when you're watching the league games and stuff at Ibrox, they're actually really quick and really good at getting the signs up on the TV screens and letting you know what's happening and what they're checking for and stuff like that. Chronically slow for that to happen tonight, and it's just not good enough. If you're paying 50 quid to go and watch that game tonight and at points you don't know what's happening, you don't know why it's happening, it's not good enough. I don't know if megaphones or mic'd up referees or whatever else is the answer to that, but it needs to be slicker. You need to know what's happening, and you shouldn't be standing there wondering what's going on, not knowing whether to celebrate, not wondering whether to be sad, be happy, or anything else. It's becoming a bit of a joke.
Yeah, I like what they've trialled down south, where the referee is mic'd up, obviously, because he's speaking to his officiating team, but the microphone that he's wearing then becomes, to cause and effect, a broadcast system where the decision's explained. And I think it's great if you're watching it on TV and you've got the benefit of replays, and obviously broadcasting media teams have direct links. They can hear the VAR discussion, so they'll be able to tell the TV audience, this is what's happening, this is what we're hearing, etc., etc. I mean, obviously outside League Cup finals, but you're able to hear all of that when you're in the stadium. You're pretty much left blank, and then you're relying on messages coming through to your phone to be able to understand exactly what's going on. And it could do with tidying up, I think it's fair to say.
Okay.
So at this point, with the penalty being awarded, Alex Berenguer, who, as I say, had scored the goal that was ultimately decided as offside, steps up to take the penalty. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, Colin, knowing that there's still 20 minutes at least of play left, my huge concern at this point was, score the penalty, do we collapse in on ourselves? And, we're still very much in the tie at this stage. I think if we go 1-0 down, I still think that we're in the tie. What I was really worried about, with the amount of time left on the clock and plus injury, I thought if we do take a step back and we retreat into ourselves, which we've been conscious of doing before and very guilty of doing before, this tie could be over tonight. And up steps Liam Kelly. Berenguer, he has a little bit of a kind of stuttering run to be able to get.
Good run. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah. I hate them. I don't know. Maybe it's the old school in me. I just prefer a solid run and then smash the thing as hard as you can. Liam Kelly dives to his right-hand side, but lifts his left foot up. It goes over the bar. And for those who weren't in Ibrox, all I can explain to you is, and I'm sure you were the same if you were watching at home or in the pub or wherever you were, it was treated like a goal. The outpour of celebration was absolutely fantastic. And it was a lovely moment. Like, I thinking about it now in terms of how much it meant to everybody. What a save. And Kelly rightly is swamped by his teammates. Again, a shit decision. I really dislike it, but frankly, I feel justice was served.
Oh, absolutely. It was celebrated just like a goal, and rightly so. We did a few kicks in the balls, Cammy, during the game, with the red card, with the offside goal, then with the penalty, everything else. We did fear the worst, because penalties tend to get scored. That's how it works. And we tend to be unlucky with things like that. But no, it's a fantastic save. He dives down, but he's smart enough to keep the leg outstretched, pop it up, and it's strong. His leg's strong enough that ball comes off it and it just goes out the way and out of danger. It was great. And you're right, the players did swamp him. Liam Balogun grabbed him, and I would love to know what Liam Balogun was saying to him, because Liam Balogun grabbed him and just started shouting stuff into his ear. I'd love to know what that was. A really good moment as well after it. I think it was at full time with Jack Butland serenading Kelly as well, cuddling him and wishing him well and stuff, which is really good to see given the circumstances of the game and him getting dropped and stuff. But yeah, Liam Kelly made a bit of an announcement of himself as a Rangers player tonight, I think, after coming in as the understudy, not playing all that often, probably not being that sure of him really. And tonight he's been fantastic. He's been not a match winner, but a match saver for us, perhaps.
Very possibly, yeah. Some interesting terminology, but we'll see if it holds water with the listeners. Interestingly, Hamza Egeman comes on a few minutes after this. Hamza Egeman had been trying to come on Colin, before all of the offsides and VAR debacle.
Yeah,
It felt like as if he'd been standing at the sideline for an absolute age. He does come on to replace Cyril Dessers. I feel like as if we should have a moratorium in terms of how much we can talk about Cyril Dessers here in Heart and Hand, because it feels like as if it's an ongoing, rolling subject. The challenge that Dessers had tonight was we needed someone, following the red card, we needed someone to be able to do something which he is not good at, which has been able to hold up the ball, been able to try and make it stick up there, even if it's not necessarily to create a counter. Because again, our numbers were going to be limited in terms of what we could spend on that, and also, as you rightly mentioned beforehand, we had to adopt a far more defensive approach. He's not good at it, and he did get a couple of chances, and they weren't straightforward. Certainly not anywhere near the chances that he's missed in his last couple of games for sure. So I don't want to be too harsh on him or too critical on him, but I would have expected to see Igaman been able to come on. I would have even have said the 55, 60 minute mark. And if Barry Ferguson could have said to Cyril Dessers at halftime, look, you've got a thankless task. You're effectively going to have to shuttle run between two central defenders who will pass it to each other in order to create an opening to then pass it forward. It's going to be a tough shift. You're going to have to just see out. So empty the tank. Give me what you can for the first 10, 15 minutes of the second half, and then I'll give you a breather. However, Igaman comes on, and in the few forays forward that we had towards the close of the game, Igaman was able to do that. He was able to take a slight touch, even within our half, just to kind of calm it down a little bit. When he was able to try and get forward with it, he was strong, he was physical, he uses his body well. There was a period, I think it was just before the 90, where he's in the corner and he's just keeping three players off him at that time, just to make sure the ball stays at the other end of the park. It'll be interesting to see what the manager does with the forward positions for Aberdeen. We're going to talk about that in a moment. And more importantly, as things stand, if we're going to cross to Spain next week, I think Igaman has had a real dip in form, but I think it's been because he's had to be accommodated out on the left-hand side because of Cyril Dessers. I think that there's options there, Colin, I really do. And I will be interested to see if the manager uses the Aberdeen game to try and work out a system that involves Hamza Igaman more across in Bilbao.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a Cyril Dessers bashing session, because he wasn't terrible tonight. It wasn't all these missed opportunities. It wasn't like he let us down. He was just played. He should have been brought off. This is on the manager for me, because I get why he was there. He was there because he scored a lot of goals. He's done things on this stage. Who can forget Old Trafford? He is capable of that bit of magic and stuff against these teams. And he's got Barry Ferguson out of trouble a couple of times as well. So I get why Barry's maybe got a bit of loyalty to him in that regard as well. But as soon as we went down to 10 men, that's when the change should be made. And it's just, Cyril, nothing personal, mate, but this isn't your night anymore. And then you bring on Ikeman earlier, or even you bring on that guy Danilo that exists as well, remember? I'm sure he's still there somewhere, but he could come on and do similar stuff as well to what Ikeman does. It's just a different option. So, yeah, we have to be able to do that. But you know what? In order to be able to do that, we need to actually try it sometimes. So, yeah, Aberdeen's massively important in terms of what we can do with some players that we might need to change things for in Spain. And up front, it's potentially one of those, because we've got a good idea now of how Athletic Club will play. I don't think they'll be that much different in Spain to how they were tonight. They're going to have all of the ball. They're going to attack us. We're going to have to defend really well. So we know that already. So it's all about what we're going to do up front and the very few probably opportunities we might get on the break over there. And as much as I don't want to slag off or bash Cyril Dessers, if we're only going to get one or two chances in a game, I would much rather those one or two chances fell to Igaman or fell to Danilo, because they're more clinical. They'll take that chance, that 1 in 2 chance, that one chance in a game that they get, whereas Cyril does tend to need 3 or 4 before he puts one away. And we just need a little bit more than just a striker who can score. We need somebody that can hold it up, bring the rest of the team into play, and let them contribute as well, rather than it just kind of bouncing off them and then going away. So yeah, no offence to Cyril Dessers, it wasn't his night tonight after the red card. He should have been brought off earlier.
Yeah, I agree. We get to 90 minutes, Colin, and I think all eyes in the stadium were on the fourth official, because we needed to try and understand exactly how much injury time we were going to be playing. I think, we were all kind of talking to each other in the various chats. I think our guesstimate was about 15 minutes or so. We had a little bit of luck, I think it's fair to say, when 12 minutes went up on the 90. We get into 5 minutes of those 12. Ross McCausland is brought on for Vlad Cherny. Bajrami's brought on for Hadji as well. Absolutely makes sense. Been able to give the guys a little bit of a rest. Cherny's not long back from injury. Hadji hasn't featured as much as well. The McCausland and Bajrami substitutes, I think, make sense. I know, obviously, we're talking there about Danilo, but this was about being able to get us up the park. This was about getting fresh legs on to be able to chase any long balls or anything that we may be able to use to just get us further forward and, again, getting the ball away from our goal as much as we can. The problem came, however, as Rangers then went down to 9 men a couple of minutes after this, as Dujon Sterling had to go off injured. We're going to talk about injuries and the potential Aberdeen conundrum in just a moment, as we say, but we had another 4 minutes to play. There was some stoppages during this time as well. And, I think I'd said to you after the game, I thought 12 was soft. When I saw it, I thought there'll be an extra couple of minutes in here as well. So with a two-man advantage, Bilbao still weren't able to breach our goal. And then with 1 minute remaining, Jeffrey's brought down. We are I would say, about 30 yards out with the free kick. I would have been delighted if we had just simply played this into the corner, but we decided to float a ball into the box. Liam Balogun is trying to get onto the end of it. Nothing comes of it. And exactly, on 12 minutes, if not a touch before, the referee blows full time. It's been full of drama, full of action. The one word I would use to describe my feeling being able to come out of Ibrox and thinking about this, absolute roller coaster of a game is probably just pride.
Yeah.
We've been massively and deservedly critical of this Rangers team for failing to apply itself, for seeing a lack of effort, a lack of application, a lack of desire and hunger. I can't put that towards any single Rangers player tonight, Colin. The game changed on its head with the sending off. I think we all accept that, and we're all big enough to be able to say it's a red card, right? We understand that. I think the penalty decision was really harsh, but fortunately, we were able to recover that situation. But the manager got the reaction, as far as I'm concerned, that he was able to now call this a Rangers team, having very much said it's not a Rangers team in the aftermath of the Hibs game. It's a huge, huge result. I personally think it's one of the best European performances that we've been able to muster. We all remember Dortmund and we remember Leipzig and we remember Fiorentina and all of these great games that have had goals and penalty shootouts and everything else as well. But this was a Rangers team that across the course of the last few months has looked disjointed. They've looked uninterested. We know that there's a difference in Europe. Rangers domestically versus Rangers on Thursday nights, they are two different animals. And frankly, I'm just glad to be able to speak about them positively and to almost have a sense of relief that there's something there that we can hang our hat on, and being able to go across to Bilbao very, very much in the tie. Had you offered me that on 11 minutes as Robin Proper is walking off the park, I would have bit your hand off.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just nice that our season has at least one more week left in it. But yeah, you said the word pride, and that's the big one for me. Come out of Ibrox tonight, proud of that team, proud of every player, and proud of what we achieved. And I'm not too big-headed to hide away from the fact that after 11 minutes, I turned around to the guy beside me and said, "This is it, done. We're done now." And I feared the worst. I just didn't think we had it in us to recover from that early setback. I thought we would concede goals. I actually thought the whole tie would be away with us. actually after all that happening, but it didn't. We picked ourselves up a number of times during the game when negative things happened, and we fought for each other. The players defended as a team. They did all the right things. They didn't make silly mistakes. I mean, imagine watching a Rangers game where we don't have silly mistakes to talk about. It's quite something. And they got through the 90 minutes, they got through the 12 minutes, and this tie is very, very much alive. And who knows what's going to happen next week? So yeah, pride is the absolute word. We did the Patreon post-match show earlier where we always choose a man of the match, and it's been slim pickings recently, trying to pick one at times. But tonight we had umpteen different candidates for different reasons, and that's a wonderful place to be. And this team does surprise you constantly. This team drives you crazy, drives us nuts. We were furious with them at the weekend. Tonight we kind of love them again a wee bit. Who knows what will happen on Sunday and how we'll feel then, but we know we'll be right back up for it again on Thursday. And you know what? See the way things are, Cammy, it's the Thursday games that matter at the moment. The league's gone. It's been gone for a long, long time. Couldn't really care less about them at the moment. If we keep picking this up and doing stuff on Thursday nights, that'll do me from now until May.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Sunday then. We've got a 12 o'clock kick-off up at Pittodrie. As you rightly say, Colin, the leagues are pretty much dead rubbers now. I always enjoy being able to beat Aberdeen, as their usual furore will be around being able to play Rangers. It will be their cup final. They'll definitely be up for it. The key questions I think the Rangers have to be able to answer is, firstly, who is going to be fit? Obviously, Bailey Rice, as you rightly say, will now be completely out of contention, at least for a fortnight, with a potential concussion. Sterling had to go off injured. There was a few guys who I think when we were watching them come off, they looked tired, but absolutely understandably so. I've got zero doubt that Barry Ferguson will be using Friday as a rest and recovery day. Very much rightly so. The key issue, or the key issues, plural I should say, that Barry Ferguson has to face is who is going to be fit. Does he treat this Aberdeen game as an opportunity to try out a couple of different things with Bilbao in mind? And how does he maintain that uplift in energy? How does he maintain that motivation? The challenge you've always got as a manager in any form of life, right? Any form of business, whether it's professional sport, office space, whatever you're going to do, is that you know that you can't consistently bollock people. And I've got zero doubt in my mind they were bollocked on Monday when they got into Auchenhowie following Hibs. He's had a reaction. I think for me, what he has to be able to do is give Aberdeen absolute due respect, understand that as much as he can, but he has to be able to use this as a game with one eye on Thursday. He said something really interesting last weekend, Colin, where he is very much a one game at a time manager. His staff were trying to speak to him about Bilbao prior to Hibs, and he said, I want to get Hibs out of the way, then I'm going to talk about Bilbao. I don't know if he can do that this time around. I think he has to be seriously considering next Thursday's selection options. We will obviously have Suter and Diamandi back. I firmly believe that they'll have to play on Sunday. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see as to how the manager approaches it.
It's going to be interesting how... I don't know if he's got it in him to not approach every game wanting to win it and try to put his best team out and stuff like that, because just the kind of guy he is. And
I don't think so either.
And stuff, But if I was put in his place, I wouldn't be even considering about the thought of showing Aberdeen any respect or anything like that.
Nor should he.
First is absolute key for me. I would be possibly looking at something with the strikers that we mentioned earlier, because we want to try and work something out and get something working in that regard. Bring back in the players that were suspended from this game to get them fresh and ready. Everybody else, no. If there's even a twinge in a leg or you see them yawning in training, just leave them out. It's Aberdeen, right? If they beat a second string Rangers team, kudos to them. Well done, Aberdeen, right? If we got and get a result with a second string team, it'll be hilarious. So either way, Sunday really doesn't mean much to me at this point. It's all going to be about Thursday, and I would like to see the plans for Thursday start to take shape on Sunday. I'm just not sure Barry's built that way, though. So I think we might see quite a lot of the same guys come Thursday with just a few. Come Sunday, sorry, with just a few changes. As much as I'd like to see it differently.
Yeah, and I assume that you're on the same page as me. Liam Kelly starts.
Yeah, I think he's got to now. It's now his jersey. I don't think you can drop a goal. Dropping a goalkeeper is always a big, massive thing compared to dropping another outfield sort of player. I don't think it's a thing where you just drop them for one game to teach them a lesson and bring them back in, especially when the guy that's came in done as well as he has. So I think he plays against Aberdeen, and probably regardless of what happens against Aberdeen, he plays on Thursday as well. It's his shirt at the moment. It would be kind of ridiculous to take it off him after tonight.
Yeah, very true. Again, if it was going to be the case that we're going to see a John Souttar and Robin proper defence, I wouldn't have an issue with it. The midfield will be interesting because, as I say, Raskan played the full game against Bilbao, and he's going to be pivotal for us. I really do genuinely believe that. He was lively at Ibrox on Thursday, as you would expect from him. There's a growing intelligence, I think, in Nico Raskan, where he complements the amount of work he does off the ball with smarter play when he is on it. It's getting better. I think Connor Barron has to be able to try and come in. Diamande we mentioned already, but he will also be fit for, or available for selection, I should say, for next Thursday. I think we have to try and give him some game time. I don't want it to be enforced because of lack of options. I think we need to be able to try and make sure that whoever plays in Spain gets some minutes in their legs on Sunday.
Yeah, get minutes in, but I wouldn't be against seeing even guys like McCausland and Lawrence and stuff starting on Sunday. And looking at it from that point of view as well, just use the squad a little bit on Sunday, Barry, if you're listening. I doubt you are, but use the squad a little bit and be smart with it. We all know the one game at a time cliche and thing that managers feel they have to say, but it really doesn't matter on Sunday, Barry. It's all about Thursday.
Yeah. However, I also enjoy beating Aberdeen, especially in their own midden. So we'll have to.
Imagine doing it with a second string and young.
I think you would absolutely send the under 18s up there, and you would have the time of your life if that team was able to get the result against a full strength Aberdeen side.
It would be class. It would be great.
Well, listen, if you want to listen to some of the build up for that game, and obviously all of your Rangers news and updates and some fantastic Rangers content, you should know by now where to go. Patreon.com/Heart and Hand. And as I say, you get loads of great content on there for only a couple of quid a month. So please make sure that you're not missing out. David will be back with you on Flagship on Monday to unpack the Aberdeen game and do a little bit of a preview for Bilbao. And I will be back on Extra next Friday to hopefully talk about Rangers being Europa League semi-finalists. Last thing for me to do is to thank our executive producers, Mike Lee and Paul Myers. Thank you to you all for listening. It's very much appreciated. And my big thanks is to Colin McMillan for coming on, doing the late shift, buddy. I'm going to go back and watch the highlights again. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be a wee while before I get some sleep. But if you need to go and get some shut-eye, mate, I think you've done more than your fair shift tonight.
No, thank you. It was a pleasure. Listen, we did this against Fenerbahce. We've done it now again tonight. Hopefully we're doing it in the next round as well, Cammy. Who knows?
100%. Right, folks, that's us for this week. David will be back on Monday, as I say, and you know where to go to get all of your up-to-date Rangers content as well. We'll speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.